All right, let's dive into a story today that's, well, it's pretty chilling. It's a piece of folklore that starts with some truly heartbreaking cruelty, but then twists into this supernatural tale about a mother's love that just never ends. And that question, that's really the core of everything we're about to talk about. It's the hook that pulls you right into this world where love and grief are so incredibly powerful, they just refuse to be silenced, even by death itself.
So to get started, we need to set the scene. We're in this small village called Belpur. And, during the day, it looks like any other quiet rural town. But when the sun goes down, that's when the doors get locked, and a really terrifying secret starts to creep out from the shadows.
The villagers, they whisper about a spirit, a woman they see sitting under this big peepal tree. They say she's always weeping, holding something in her arms, and if anyone gets close enough, she asks the same heartbreaking question over and over. To really get why she's so full of sorrow, we have to go back and understand her life.
This was Anjali. Before she married her husband, Raghuvir, she was like any young woman, just full of hopes and dreams. But the second she walked into his family's home, that life was over. For 8 long years, she wasn't a wife, she wasn't a daughter-in-law, she was a slave. She faced this relentless, soul-crushing cruelty, all centered on one accusation, that she was barren.
I mean, you have to understand, her life was an absolute living nightmare. Her mother-in-law, Shanta, would just scream insults at her, loud enough for all of the neighbors to hear. Her father-in-law, Vairav, would constantly mock her, and her husband, Raghuvir, he would beat her. The gossip followed her everywhere she went. That one word, barren, became her entire identity. It was like a poison she had to swallow every single day. But even in all of this absolute darkness, Anjali held on to one tiny sliver of hope. It was a fragile dream that she believed was her only way out of this life of torment. This was the question she'd ask herself every single night. She truly, deeply believed that if she could just have a child, give her husband an heir, then the abuse would stop. The insults would finally turn into praise. She would be valued. It was her one and only dream. For 5 years, she lived in this hell, just hoping and praying. 5 long years. And then, finally, something actually changed. A doctor confirmed it. She was pregnant. And in that one moment, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, a real, genuine smile spread across Anjali's face. She could feel a new life growing inside her, and she thought her own life was finally about to begin. This was it. This was her salvation. But that hope? It was gone in an instant. Her family's reaction completely shattered it. They didn't see her as a mother-to-be, oh no. They saw her as a container, a vessel for their heir. The cruelty didn't stop. In fact, it was about to get so much worse. So this pregnancy, what should have been this incredible blessing, it actually became a curse. It didn't ease her suffering, it intensified it, and it pushed her story towards its tragic, violent conclusion. As her pregnancy went on, her family basically started starving her. They'd give her stale leftovers if they gave her anything at all, and still forced her to do all the heavy work around the house. A doctor even warned her, saying she was so malnourished that both her life and the baby's life were in extreme danger. But Anjali knew, she knew her health meant absolutely nothing to them. They only cared about the air inside her. And that brings us to the last day of her life. She came home completely exhausted from another doctor's visit and served the afternoon meal. Her husband, Raghuvir, who reeked of alcohol, took one single bite and just exploded in rage. His complaint? The food was cold. And that simple, stupid complaint, that was the spark that lit the fuse. He started screaming at her, saying she did it on purpose just to spite them. And then he attacked her. He slapped her, he kicked her, he slammed her against the wall. Anjali fell to the floor, wrapping her arms around her stomach, begging him, pleading with him to stop for their baby's sake. But he didn't listen. He just kept beating her until her pleas went silent. And the whole time, his parents, Shanta and Pyrav, just sat there and watched. They watched her die. After this deafening silence, that's the first thing that was said. Not a scream for help, not an ounce of remorse, just relief. The trouble, as they called her, was finally over. They dragged her body out to a field behind their house and just buried her in an unmarked grave.
But for Anjali, this wasn't the end. Not even close. For her, death was just the beginning of her power. Her murderers thought they'd silenced her forever, but what they'd actually done was unleash something far more terrifying. See, in the local folklore, there's a specific term for a spirit like Anjali's, a Garbhavathi Atma. It's the spirit of a pregnant woman who dies a violent, unnatural death. And it's considered one of the most powerful and vengeful spirits there is, a soul trapped between worlds, bound to the earth by this fierce, protective love for a child she never even got to hold. Just 3 nights after they buried her, it started. At first, it was the faint sound of a baby crying. Soon, that sound filled the entire house. The family was tormented by screams, by horrifying visions. Her father-in-law saw her ghost out in the courtyard rocking a baby that wasn't there. It got so bad that the 3 of them, Raghuveer and his parents, started huddling together in a single room every night, just absolutely terrified to be alone. And then came the final night. A cold wind blew through their locked room, and Anjali's spirit appeared right in front of them. Her hair was flowing around her like smoke, and she asked them that one single question: "Where is my child?" They couldn't move. They couldn't even scream. By the next morning, her murderer and his 2 spectators were all found dead. They had been suffocated by some unseen force. Anjali had gotten her revenge. But here's the thing. Even after her murderers were gone, Anjali's spirit didn't find peace. The haunting of Belpur continued. Because her soul, as it turns out, wasn't looking for vengeance. It was searching for something else entirely. So the villagers, totally terrified at this point, they called in a spiritual healer. He confirmed that Anjali's powerful spirit was tied to the land where they had buried her. So her body was exhumed, and they performed the final rites she was never given. They offered her things from her childhood, her favorite toys, anything they could think of to try and bring her spirit some peace. But none of it worked. The rituals, they were useless. And this is where you understand the real tragedy of this story. Her spirit didn't actually care about revenge. That was just a consequence. The real reason her soul can't rest is something far, far deeper. And so the legend goes that she still wanders the village of Belpur at night, not as a spirit of hate, but as a spirit of eternal, unresolved love. Forever searching, forever asking the one question that has no answer. Mera bacha kahan hai? Where is my child?